Good evening, Jamsters, and welcome to another edition of the Suns Jam Session Podcast. My name is John Voida, managing editor, brightsideofthesun.com. Make sure you check out my writing there. Truly appreciate it. All the reads. I appreciate people who like to read, because I like to write. I like to write more than the Suns like playing basketball, it feels like. Because on a night when Hollywood honored its finest performances, the Suns delivered another all-too-familiar sequel, one nobody asked for yet everyone saw coming. For the third time this season, they faced the Minnesota Timberwolves, and for the third time, they lost. And like clockwork, it followed the same tired script, didn't it? They come out strong as they always do. I mean, entering the game, they were a plus 39 in first halves this season, and true to form, they led by 2 at the break. Good game. Solid game. But you could feel it, couldn't you, Jamsters? You could feel it. Second half, well, that's where the team goes from contender to catastrophe. Entering this game, they are staggering negative 156 in second half scoring before tonight. And as expected, the Wolves flipped the switch and buried the Suns by outscoring them 67-47 in the second half and rolled the credits. At this point, the pattern is so reliable, you could set your watch to it. Or better yet, bet the house on it. Suns first half, opposing team win the second half. It's practically free money at this point because it happens so consistently. We're running out of ways to describe this season's absurdity. My buddy Justin from Fanning the Flames says he had no words tonight on Twitter. And I've got 2. Hell, I've got a whole damn thesaurus of 2-word phrases for this mess. Fuck this. Firebud. We suck. Ugh. Again? For shame. Trade KD? Phoenix Buns? It hurts? Another miss? No defense? Suns down? Play done? Cheese stick? No heart? Need grit? Poor leadership? Save us? Nice shoes? Kill me.
Hey, you're listening to the Suns Jam Session Podcast, shooting the shit about the Suns since 2019.
That's right, Jamsters. A 116-98. After scoring 34 points in the first quarter, the Suns could only muster 98 total points against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm going solo today, so I hope you guys are okay with that. But rolling solo here. Matthew's taking the night off. So I thought this would just be a good opportunity to sit back and talk to you guys about the Suns and start workshopping some ideas that I'll get to later. We'll discuss this game and what happened in yet another loss for Phoenix. What was that, 33 on the season? Jesus Christ. He was 33 when he died. That's how many losses we have on the season now. And so we'll talk about this game. We'll talk about some of the performances, the highs, the lows. And then I just want to start workshopping some ideas and interact with those who are live here watching on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and Twitch and Instagram. If you happen to be here, hit a thumbs up button, especially on the YouTube side. Lets everyone know where you get Suns content, and it helps with the algorithms and supports the channel. So I truly, truly appreciate that. And in the same token, when I get to that point of the show where I'm just talking about the future of the Suns, because we're at that point where this is like the Titanic, right? Like the movie Titanic. Like, it's going to hit the iceberg at some point. Now, granted, they dragged it out for like 2.5 hours before it happened, but you knew that iceberg was coming. If anybody told you that the sink ships, they probably were doing so facetiously. And if you didn't know, like, whoa, man, that movie came out like 80 years after the Titanic went down. And that's where we're kind of at as Suns fans. Like, we know that the Titanic is sinking, that there's an iceberg dead ahead, and this season's done, and the team's going to hit it, and that iceberg is the off season. And there's a lot of thought that needs to go into the offseason, a lot of discussions as Suns fans that we're going to have about what should happen this upcoming offseason, and start workshopping these ideas of, well, if this happens, what does this mean, and things of that nature. But all that being said, the season's not even over for another month, and the playoffs, the finals aren't done until June. We got like 4 months until we can even do anything about it. So there's plenty of time to talk about this stuff. But I just want to start introducing some ideas at the back end of this podcast about what we can do, and just kind of, again, at least for me, start to articulate some of these ideas, and then kind of get your guys' point of view on what those ideas could be. So talking about this game, the Wolves and the Phoenix Suns. When was it over? Oh man, when was this one over? I think when Anthony Edwards started feeling himself, and it really started to happen in that second half. Anthony Edwards tonight, 12 of 22 from the floor, 6 of 14 from beyond the arc, and 14 of 14 from the free throw line. He had 44 points, 7 assists, and 5 total rebounds. Anthony Edwards just loves playing the Suns, doesn't he, Suns fans? Just he gets off on playing the Suns. Maybe that's one of those things where you say we should trade Kevin Durant, because Edwards gets up to play against Kevin Durant. And if he's not on our team, then we don't have to worry about him trying to get up to play against Kevin Durant, because he loves talking about KD, or talking to KD on the court. He loves yapping. He's one of those fiery young players who just oozes with talent and is an unstoppable force when he plays against Phoenix. So it might have been one of those three pointers that he hit in the third quarter. I mean, he went 3 of 5 from beyond the arc in the third quarter. He had 17 points in the third quarter. That's when this one kind of fell over. Am I right? It's like he just took it to another level, a level that this team doesn't have the ability to kind of consistently get to. Like Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, they all have the ability to take over games, but it's something we rarely see, where they just go on these absolute heaters. And then, of course, Anthony Edwards showcases emotion as he's doing it. And I know it's something that Suns fans always want to see from our players, is guys, when they're getting on those heaters, start talking a little junk, start getting, feeding upon themselves. And you just have to understand and respect the personalities of the people on your team. And we don't necessarily have those kind of guys. We don't have those guys who start yelling, screaming, beating their chest. I mean, and Edwards is, I wouldn't go as far to say he's a one of one, but he is a very unique player in the NBA today, not only in the style in which he plays and the effectiveness in which he plays, the fire in which he plays with, but with the way that he can operate on the floor, the space he occupies, and the talent that he possesses. He's really a unique player and a great building block for any organization to have. And that's what you want when you get your number one pick, right? When you draft your number one overall pick, you want him to become the cornerstone of your franchise. And for Minnesota, it happened to work out. And then what happens? It happens at the expense of the Suns, because again, he gets up against the Suns, and we can't stop him in any capacity. I mean, he was a plus 22. Their stats are just disgusting in this game. I mean, it really is. If you go down the stat line, 22 turnovers for the Phoenix Suns led to 40 points. I'm going to say that again. 22 turnovers by the Phoenix Suns led to 40 points. Minnesota had 8 turnovers and led to 9 points. So they beat us by 31 points off turnovers in this game. Absolutely ridiculous. Fast break points, only 12-9. It's not like these were live ball turnovers that led to fast breaks, but they were live ball turnovers that led to offensive sets in which they scored. You are not going to win basketball games if you turn it over 22 times. You are not going to win basketball games when you allow the opposition to score 40 points over or off of those turnovers. I mean, that is just unbelievably ridiculous. Now, that being said, they gave up they turned the ball over 22 times. That ties them for the most that they've given up this season. They've done it 2 other times at the Clippers, and they won that game in overtime. That was like the first game of the season. And then at the Oklahoma City Thunder almost a month ago, and they lost that one by 31 points. And if you take a look at it, ooh man, here's a fun little stat for you.
Ooh, dang, stat me.
17 is the number I'm looking at, ladies and jamsters. The Suns have turned the ball over 17 times or more in 17 games this season. They are 3-14 in those games. If you can force the Suns to turn the ball over 17 times, your odds are in your favor. You will win that game. You will win that game. And Eddie Yee is right in the chat. He goes, I thought we had a good first half. We did. We did have a good first half. And again, that's the challenge with this team. And we see it over and over again. Is they have a good first half. Not a great first half. They barely are ahead at halftime, but they're ahead. But then they just fall apart in the second half. And true to form, tonight it happened again. They gave up 34 points to the Timberwolves in the third quarter. And they scored 21. And then they were outscored 33-26 in that fourth quarter. So in the second half alone, as I mentioned at the top of the show, 67-47, the Suns were outscored in the second half after they took a 51-49 lead into halftime. It's just not sustainable. It's something that's not going to be you're not going to win basketball games that way. You're not going to win basketball games that way. You take a look kind of around the box score for the Phoenix Suns, and you start with Kevin Durant.
Who the heck are you?
I'm Kevin Durant. You know who I am. Y'all know who I am.
Did anybody see a sniper? Did anybody see anything?
I'm one of the best players to ever play the game.
Kevin Durant scored a team-high 26 in this game, but it took 23 shots to get there. 10 total points, 4 assists, couple block shots, 4 turnovers. And again, not uber efficient. And as this team is continuing to head towards that iceberg, that is the offseason, there's a question that this organization needs to start asking internally as it relates to Kevin Durant. Is at what point do you start to scale back Kevin Durant's overall usage rate? Because what they're doing right now is they're playing him so much. They're so disconnected that they are relying on Kevin Durant. He's averaging 36.7 points or minutes per game right now. That's a ton of minutes for somebody. I mean, you look at teams across the NBA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Donovan Mitchell. You know, these guys are averaging 30 minutes a game because the team around him can support the weight of minutes without them. But the Suns can't do that. And then when you have Durant out there for as long as he was, like in games like tonight, and he's inefficient, you combine inefficiency with turnovers, and you're just not going to get a positive result. You know, Devin Booker in this game, 17 points. Negative 26 for Devin Booker on the plus minus. Obviously, you guys know how plus minus works. I don't got to give you my opinion on that. 5 of 12 from the field, 3 of 7 from beyond the arc, 6 turnovers. 17 points, 6 turnovers, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. Raise your hand if you were surprised by any of this. Go ahead. I can see it. Oh, nobody's hands up? It's because none of us are surprised by this, man. Like, we know the Suns team. They're not it. And that's okay. It is what it is, man. Like, it is what it is right now. It is what it is. I did the whole night or the whole day, all Sunday, I knew we had a late game tonight, a 7:30 game, quote unquote, because you know it starts at like 7:45. Because the NBA, they're like, fuck starting on time. And I knew, I'm like, oh man, we're playing Minnesota. That's a team where Anthony Edwards is going to get into it. They play physical, which we've seen this season. They're long. They disrupt us. They force turnovers, which happened tonight. We can't pass over them. We can't pass around them. They gamble a lot. They gamble a lot on the defensive end, and the Suns just cerebrally have yet to pick up on that and don't take advantage of it. You know what a fake pass does to Minnesota? If you fake pass to against Minnesota, you're going to get somebody like Jaden McDaniels jump in that passing lane. And if the recipient of who that fake pass was designed to go to starts to cut, you got to bounce pass. The Suns did that one time in this game. I was like, dude, you could do that like over, wash, rinse, repeat against this team because that's what they do. They gamble on defense, and they're gambling on defense. It won them the game tonight. Again, 40 points off turnovers. 40 points off turnovers. All right. I got to get over that. I got to think of something good.
Tell me something good. Tell me something good.
All right, here's something good. Tyus Jones looked good again. Only 17 minutes off the bench, but that's what I kind of want from him is just a stopgap. Like if Booker or Beal are not out there and one of them sitting, Tyus Jones should be in there, but he shouldn't be starting, at least in my opinion. Although he's looked good in his past couple starts and he's trying to make me eat crow. But he was 4 of 4 from the field. He was 2 of 2 from beyond the arc. 1 turnover, 1 assist, 10 points. There you go. That's something good. Okay? I did it. I came up with something good. And this is not a good game. This is not a good game. Not a good season. What are we at now? Is it 19 more of these? Is that right, Jamsters? 19 more? That was a 60-second game, right? If my math is mathing right? Or is that the 60th game? What are we at? 21 more? 22? Too many. How about that? We have too many games remaining. And again, it's just like this slow crawl towards oblivion. Julius Randle returned tonight because why wouldn't he return tonight? He's been out for quite some time. I know. I have him on my fantasy team. 8 of 14, 2 of 5 from beyond the arc, 20 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 personal fouls, 2 turnovers, and 1 savage elbow to the fucking to the face, to the what, left, right, the right eye of Nick Richards. God, I feel like he always hurts his son, doesn't he? Okay, I was hoping someone would bring this up. John Carl just said this. So this is what I'm talking about as we start to explore options, because we're already in that mode. Like, John Carl, you're not wrong for saying this. And if you're listening to the pod, I pulled up his comment. John Carl just simply says, Julius Randle for KD. Now, obviously, I know that, and I assume, Mr. Carl, as you watch, you're not sitting there saying straight up, right? There's going to be other assets and draft capital that you would want in something like that. And I'm right there along, like, people are just thinking. Like, do we trade for him so he just stops hurting our players? Is like that our strategy? It's like, dude, if Julius Randle's on our team, he can't hurt Nick Richards. You know what I mean? And what's interesting about Julius Randle is he's definitely somebody who, if we talk from a price for value paid standpoint, it doesn't make sense. He gets paid too much for what he actually provides. And like, kudos to him. He had that one All NBA year. And then based on that year, he got paid. You know, he was playing for the Knicks, and they paid him for what he did, 3 years ago, I want to say. And they gave him a 4-year, $117 million contract in 2021. And so this year, for example, he's making $33 million. And then next year, it's a player option for $30 million. So it actually decelerates. It doesn't go up, it goes down. So almost $31 million. And so what some people are saying is you trade Kevin Durant to the Minnesota Timberwolves, knowing that Anthony Edwards and him would be a force in the NBA, and you try to get assets off of that. It's not something I'm pro. It's not something I'm against at this point. Although, like, I am kind of against having Randall on our team. Although we never have a power forward. Like, we are historically a team that doesn't have a power forward, or we have small power forwards. The only great power forward, really, in my opinion, in our organizational history, is Charles Barkley. You know, like, we had Antonio McDyess, and, you know, when Stat was playing power forward, he was amazing, but we made him a 5. We tried to make him a 4 when we brought in Kurt Thomas in 05, and that lasted for a couple seasons, and the Suns kind of leaned away from that. But again, that's just one of those conversations out there. And so that's something I just want people to kind of put in the back of their mind. Julius Randle, next year, it's an expiring contract. It's a $31 million contract, whereas Kevin Durant is up in the 50s. Is that something you want? Now granted, even as a power forward, he's undersized. He's 6'8". He's 250. He's a big dude. He throws elbows in Nick Richards' face all right. Just things to start thinking about. Michael Kolb says he's too old. He's, just so you guys know, he's 30 years old. So, I mean, I think it's okay. It's not like 33. Once you hit 33, man, it's when your back starts going, your knee starts going. But all right, let's do a little subreddit stakeout.
The Suns Jam Session Subreddit Stakeout.
All right, I was in Minnesota tonight, dressed as myself, because I come in peace. I'm not here to hurt anyone's feelings. It's the Suns. We can't hurt people's feelings. We don't win games. This is what some of the Minnesota Timberwolves were saying in the subreddit for Minnesota. Loving this Suns court / jersey combo. And somebody else said, is it okay to like that Suns court logo, or should I feel bad? I love that Suns court logo. I wish that was one of our primaries. They really did a good job with that logo, at least the one at center court. That's just like the way it says Phoenix Suns in the Old West font. I absolutely love that. And then other people around the league, they're noticing. Tyus couldn't hit a jump shot to save his life in a Wolves uniform, so of course he makes that, because Tyus Jones hit the buzzer beater to score the 34th point in the first quarter. It was the last good moment of the game for the Suns. And somebody else said, fuck off, Tyus. Somebody said, ex-Wolves players hate us. And there was one comment that said, Booker, the biggest bitch in the league. Bol doing that shit every time he sets a screen. I don't know what Bol was doing. God, I hate Devin Booker, somebody said. Thank goodness Ant's vitriol for the city of Phoenix is still here. Amen. I want to see Booker sweat with Clark on him like a fucking leech. This is a good one. If Budenholzer's fired this offseason, I think we need to make a move for him and be rid of Finch. Budenholzer has been given such a terrible roster and situation. Think about that. That is totally the case of a Minnesota fan thinking the grass is greener on the other side, right? Like, oh, well, Budenholzer got such a terrible roster and situation. I don't think this is a terrible roster. Do you guys? Like, answer in the chat right now. Is this a terrible roster? I think they've performed terribly. I think they've unbelievably come short of expectations. But I think this was a well-built, on-paper roster. Didn't we all think so at the beginning of the season? This was a good roster, a championship-level roster. You take a look at how you construct a team, and outside of like the duplicative nature of Bradley Beal and Devin Booker, we had a big in Yusuf Nurkic who was designed for rebounding and rim deterrence. You have one of the greatest scorers in all time in Kevin Durant. You got Devin Booker, who is a mid-range assassin. You got Bradley Beal, who can score on all three levels. You pick up 2 point guards who are high assist, low turnover guys. You get Mason Plumlee, who's not overly athletic, but is a serviceable backup big. You draft a 3-and-D wing who hasn't turned out to hit the 3, but it's definitely a D guy. And Oso Ighodaro, a fundamentally sound backup big. You know, you got your sharpshooters and Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen. It's a damn good roster. That's why we're all confused. Like, that's why we're just lost. That's why we're just lost. Because we don't know what the fuck has happened. Keith in the chat says, I don't know. The Truth says, whatever this roster is, I don't want it. Gavin from the Aussie Suns Fan podcast says, the roster's fine. We have a civil war problem. Oh, that's so true. Ooh, right in the feels there, Gavin, my buddy. Ooh, we have a civil war problem. Eddie Yee, we have a decent roster, to be fair. Yeah. But people across the league think that Budenholzer could be the answer to their situation. And then Michael Evans, Suns built a team with no defense, no heart, no chemistry. Heart and chemistry aren't things that show up on a stat sheet, unfortunately. Because, again, on paper, I think this team looks good. All right, carrying on with other comments from the subreddit stakeout. KD playing like ass to lower his trade value so he can come to Minnesota. And there were a ton of KD coming to Minnesota comments in this chat. I'll get to that. This is probably the best comment of the night. Like, this one is probably going to go into the subreddit stakeout Hall of Fame for the season. If Devin Booker is ever a POW and the enemy is trying to get national secrets, every time he's about to fall asleep, the enemy would just have to startle him awake with a picture of Jaden McDaniels right in front of his face. Dude would crack in one day. That's fucking funny shit. That's funny shit. Gotta highlight that comment. And then, so this is what somebody asked before the game. And this was before the game started. Since the game hasn't started yet, supposedly KD is going to be traded somewhere, and he wants to go to this summer. Do you think the Wolves should go for it? If so, what would you be okay trading in return? And somebody said, I'd do it, but for nothing more than Randall's expiring plus Conley's expiring plus 2 firsts, or 1 first with Dillingham, who was their first round pick this year. KD's on a different timeline and injury prone. I don't know about the injury prone thing, man. He's been pretty healthy with the Suns. It'd be an attempt at trying something fun for 2 years max, then resetting after KD and Gobert expire. Edit, no Jaden McDaniels, no Naz Reid, and honestly, no TSJ. Who's TSJ? Terrence Shannon Jr., that's their other rookie. Or if they want TSJ, give up no first. Maybe open to Neil Alexander Walker and Dante DiVincenzo in place of Dilly. Gross. Randall and Conley in first. So let's just stay old, but we'll get a couple draft picks. Which, as I exit subreddit stakeout, is where my mental workshopping begins.
The Suns Jam Session Subreddit Stakeout.
All right. So I said this at the top of the show, but again, we're 4 months away from the Suns being able to do anything. 4 months, ladies and jamsters. But that doesn't mean we can't just start workshopping some of these conversations about what it looks like. What do the Suns do? And so I put a poll out there from the Suns Jam Session Twitter feed. If you don't follow us at Suns Jam, please do. And I go, we know Beal's going nowhere this offseason, so what do you do? And I gave 4 options. I said, you trade KD and Book. Do you trade Book? Do you trade KD? Or do you keep the big 3? Those were the 4 options. Now, of course, you got the Jack and Ninnies out in there who's like, well, you trade Beal. I'm like, that's not the option. Like, well, Beal could be traded. I'm like, I'm sure he can, but for all intents and purposes, for the exercise that I'm doing, I'm saying Beal's still here because, in my opinion, due to his no trade clause in his contract, the Suns aren't going to be able to move off of him. It's just how I feel. It's how I think it's going to play out. So I'm going to create a scenario, and then I'm going to ask you guys to answer it. And like, why does everybody have to challenge everything you say on fucking Twitter? Like, anytime you say anything, somebody's got to turn into a debate. Like, well, trade Beal. Okay, douche fuck. That's the one thing I said you can't do in this situation. I'm giving you 4 options. There's only 4 options on the fucking polls on Twitter. They don't give you 5. And trade Beal. Fucking people annoy me. Would a suitable coach be the answer? Potentially, but that's not what I'm asking. Like, that's not what I'm asking. Those are other conversations, other polls, and other things. I'm literally saying, yeah, I'm with you, Gab. Nothing can be straightforward. But I'm literally asking, Beal staying. This is the scenario. We don't know the coach. And other people like, well, that's not enough information for me to make a decision. Cool. Just don't click the fucking vote then. Carry the fuck on with your life. But trade KD and Book. Trade Book. Trade KD. Keep the big 3. Those are the 4 options. And right now, trading Kevin Durant is leading with 62%. And then keep the big 3, oddly, is almost 22%. And then trade KD and Book is 15%. Only 1% say trade Book. So, okay, perfect. The truth says it in here because I'm seeing what a lot of different people are saying. So the truth says trade KD and Booker. Mark Brooks says trade KD and Booker. Michael Evans, trade Katie and Book. Irish Roar, trade Katie and Book. Start over. Okay, so that's what I want to talk about. And I'm going to workshop this with you guys. And I just want to kind of get your opinions on this as I analyze this. The blow it up option. Because I see it on Bright Side of the Sun. I write a ton of articles, and a lot of people are having the same conversations. Like, well, do we blow it up? Do we just trade Grant? Do we just trade Booker? What do we do this offseason? We're all in that mind. That's what being a fan is. Even when the Philadelphia Eagles just won the fucking Super Bowl, and they're already trying to fix their team. Like, it's just part of being a fan. Okay? It's playing chess with assets and things. And, if you're Kevin Durant and you're listening or watching this, it's not a personal thing. It's what a fan does. You're a Washington Commanders fan. You might think you need a better tight end next year. It's not like we're trying to overly impede upon you as a human being. It's a fan thing. So I want to talk about the blow it up option. The trade Kevin Durant, trade Devin Booker. Now, in this scenario, you're going to get a lot of draft capital. Wherever Book goes, wherever KD goes, they're going to send back some players, but they're going to be sending back picks as well. Now, obviously, who those players are a big determining factor, and we don't know who that is. Again, this is a whole hypothetical. But here's my challenge with this mindset, this whole blow up, this rebuild. Is rebuilds take time, and I don't think people truly remember what that's like. I mean, I'm sure some of you do, but truly remember it. Truly remember it. That it takes time to do a rebuild. Look at the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's a great example. Okay. Anthony Edwards was their first overall draft pick. Okay. And he was taken number 1 overall in the 2020 draft. First really good solid season, playoff worthy fall season. 4 years after that. That's last year. 4 years. And that's a number 1 overall pick who hit. And that's my challenge with that, because it's going to take a ton of draft capital, but it brings its own set of risks. When you do that draft capital, you don't know where you're going to fall in the draft. It's kind of like playing the lottery, but without the fun of doing the scratch-off tickets. You don't know the talent level of the players you're going to acquire. You have to then develop these players. It's not like you draft somebody. You have all these draft picks. Like, let's say you get 2 draft picks at next year's draft, right? You trade Booker. You trade Durant. You get 2 picks in the first round because of it. It's still going to take, let's say both of them hit. It's still going to take 3 to 5 seasons for them to become viable options, consistent options. So you're basically asking to cook like a 5-course meal, but you've only got a microwave right now. You don't have the oven to do it. You don't have the money to do the chef yet. Yeah, Michael says in the chat, you blow up a team to get a franchise player. We have one in Booker. That's my thing. And Aussie Suns fans, we also gave Book CP3, who gave him the keys and guided the rest of the floor. It worked. Devin Booker has the capability to be franchise players. He had one of the greatest players of all time. But we did that for Devin Booker in year 6 for him? 6 years. So we're talking 2030 is when the Suns would kind of be relevant again. Take a look at all the teams around the NBA. Who's good? Okay. Oklahoma City Thunder. Let's talk about them. All right. So OKC had 2 superstars when they had Paul George and they had Russell Westbrook. And what they decided to do was, they kind of got to that point where the Suns are right now, right? They're like, oh shit, this is a little too much. So in 2019, they traded for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. All right. And then they lost in the first round. And they didn't make the playoffs, and then lost in the second round last year. And now they're obviously the best team in the NBA, one of them, and have a potential to win a title. That's 3 years of no making the playoffs along the way. And again, that's the process. I understand the process. We went through the process a decade ago. I'm impatient, man. I remember that's yes, we had hope. I think that's the one thing that Everyone's kind of in that mindset right now. It's like, dude, if we blow it up, at least we'll have hope. We'll have draft picks again. But draft picks, it takes forever. It takes forever for it to happen. And every decision that you have to make around those core players that you get, because again, you're going to get some players back, but you're looking to rebuild on the draft. Every decision around those cores needs to be stellar. The odds of this working out are as slim as winning a poker game with a pair of twos. Like, that's my issue with the blow it up thing. Booker's not a franchise player. As Suns fans, we're blind to how overrated he is. His contract goes to $60 million soon. It's going to get worse. I get that, but he is our franchise player, and he has been our franchise player. I don't know if he seems to take it up a level in the playoffs. I mean, it's a whole debate unto itself, and I'm not opposed to that mode of thinking, but you have somebody who you can build around. You can build around Devin Booker. We did it before. We tried it again. It didn't work. But we did it with CP3, and then we did it through the draft, and we went through the pain of the draft to get there. And it took us 3 years to even get to that point. It took 3 years of Devin Booker to go, okay, shit, this is the guy. Okay, now we suck. Ayton. Now we suck again. Or Ayton and Bridges. We suck again. Cam Johnson. Okay, we still are a 500 team. Under 500, don't make the playoffs. Boom, CP3. That's how we built the last run of the Suns. And it takes time. My thing is, if you do a soft rebuild, if you trade Devin Booker or you trade Kevin Durant, not a both, an or, I feel like, at least at this point, and again, Suns fans, we've got 4 months to talk about this shit. We still got 20-something games to play to get there. But we can start to figure out how we feel about it. And I'm going to continue to work this out in real time. That's the beauty of doing this podcast. This is why I like sitting here talking with you guys, reading your comments, seeing what you say, writing for Bite Side of the Sun. Because I don't know which path I prefer at this point. But I think the path I don't prefer is the blow it up one. I'm not a fan of just doing a full-on reset. You know, KD goes to Minnesota and we get Julius Randle and Connolly and, 3 first-round picks. And Booker goes to Houston and we get our first-round picks back. And we get like Fred VanVleet, and like maybe one other asset who's not somebody who they want to. We're not going to get Amen Thompson, right? And in this scenario, we still have Beal. So we'll still have the ability to be somewhat competitive, but with a ton of draft capital. But I don't see us being competitive. I can see us being just competitive enough to be right where the Suns were, in about 2013, 14, 15, when we got TJ Warren and we got Devin Booker. We're drafting these guys with the 13th and 14th overall pick, And then when we finally got down in the lottery, then that's when they need the right GM to make the right decisions. And I don't know if that's James Jones or not. That's a whole nother conversation. Because James Jones, outside of a couple bonehead and misses, has done well drafting for us. I like Ryan Dunn. I like Oso Ighodaro. He was around for DA. He was around for Mikal Bridges. He was Cam Johnson. The Jalen Smith one will always hold against him. But he drafted Toumani Camara. They traded him, but he drafted him. So there's a ton of things to think about and to talk about over these next 4 months. Yeah, we're going to continue to have games. Yeah, we're going to continue to kind of watch and wonder. Why? Why is this the same catastrophe night after night? And we'll talk about ways to fix it. The Suns are a lot of things, but they're always interesting. Always interesting. We'll see you on Tuesday night after we play the Clippers. Till then, ladies and jamsters, go home and love your family.
Hey, you're listening to the Suns Jam Session Podcast, shooting the shit about the Suns since 2019.